Field all lined up for the restart as they work their way out of turn number 4. On the front row, you've got that white 20 of Jake Finch. To his right elbow is Tim Richmond in car 27 as they all work their way out of turn number 4. Waiting for the pace car driver Steve Bingham to hit pit road.
Gustine gives him a pretty good shove at the tail end of the front straightaway. That'll shove him out into the lead. Dean's going to go along with him and quite happily take over that number 2 spot. Here comes Ryan Huff now. He'll go down to the inside of Tim Richmond for 3rd.
And then as the first side-by-side battle inside of the top 5, they will continue that battle up the back straightaway while Jake Finch continues to lead the way. Gustine right in his wake, and they are stacked up double wide 5, row Steve.
In that first side-by-side battle, Ryan Huff inside Tim Richmond. A few other cars in there as well. Greg Van Olsley in the outside lane. Sean Core, second line on the line.
Right to the bottom of the racetrack, though, is the race leader, and that is Jake Finch.
Christian Rose, the West Virginia native, a baseball player in Division I of NCAA and voted to the Hall of Fame of his college, University of Maryland at Eastern Shore. Now a race car driver gets turned around just past the start-finish line.
He was running at position number 10. What does that mean? Well, that means it could have been a whole lot bigger than what it was. So we are back under the caution flag yet again. Caution flag number 4. Jake Finch is the race leader. Right now, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification on the Motor Racing Network.
I'm surprised he didn't get hit.
Welcome back to the season kickoff for the ARCA Menard Series tonight, live right here at Daytona International Speedway. It is the Hard Rock Bet 200, and yes, as we approach midnight Eastern time, we are indeed live. This race scheduled to go tomorrow at 1:30 was moved to tonight due to the weather forecast for tomorrow. It's not favorable, so the officials elected to move it to tonight. So you're listening to live coverage. We are working under the caution flag, and a quick look at the top 10 on lap number 25 down of the 80 that are scheduled. Jake Finch leads, Gustine, Ryan Huff, Tim Richmond, and Sean Core. That's your top 5.
So caution flag number 4 is being displayed for an incident involving Christian Rose. Could have been a lot worse. He got turned around coming through the tri-oval and spun right in the middle of the pack. Several cars had to take evasive action to avoid Christian, and remarkably, nobody else hit Christian Rose in the middle of the track.
Yeah, I saw that replay on NASCAR TV. Off the end of the front straightaway, cars going top and bottom, and him right in the middle of the racetrack was Christian Rose in that 32 car, who was able to lock it down and keep it rolling backwards straight, and that prevented further damage and contact. So we work under the caution here. 3rd of the evening. 4th of the evening here tonight in the ARCA Menard Series Hard Rock Bet 200. 80 laps the distance, so still a long way to go. And a pit stop between now and then to get to the finish of today's event.
Yeah, keep in mind there is a competition caution that is scheduled at or near lap 40. Now, every time there is a caution flag, that is an opportunity for teams to pit. They don't have to wait until that competition caution at or near lap 40 to come down pit road for service, but it is there for the teams to pit if they want to during that competition caution. But every caution flag is an opportunity once the pit's open for teams to make pit stops. Christian Rose has come down pit road, even though he is one of the few cars that is going to elect to pit, at least for the moment. Just as I say that now, a lot of cars, though, pull off the racetrack. Down pit road. Jake Finch, Gustine, Tim Richmond, and others. Simultaneously. It's called a modified live pit stop procedure for ARCA. So you see everyone car up with fuel first, or they can change tires. It doesn't matter the order. They just can't at the exact same time. You also cannot gain or lose any positions on pit road. You leave pit road the same position. There is no race off of pit road. Let's return back to the Motor Racing Network. Jeff Striegel announcing.
Under caution, pit road is open. A number of cars have elected to hit pit road. Let's get down and visit with Steve Post.
Yeah, Scott Melton, the first one off from pit road. There goes Jason Kitzmiller down here. We have got Willie Mullins right here in the first pit box, and they are just working to fill these cars up with fuel is the big thing. So trying to get as much fuel into these cars as possible as they work on these automobiles. Gus Dean is down here. Jake Finch is down here getting pit service, as well as the Red Racing duo Andres Perez and LeVar Scott. So there goes Big Willie. That's what it says on the top of the car as he gets back out on the racetrack. So we'll see what happens with these cars that pitted here on lap number 25. Jason Toy.
Greg Van Alst decided to come in. They took on 4 tires, 4 of those General tires and Sunoco fuel. They're waiting. You can't do both at the same time. So they finished the tire work. Now the Sunoco fuel is going in. Judson Bonsignor is in, picking up those 4 General tires and topping it off with that Sunoco fuel. Jason Kitzmiller was in. He took fuel only this time down the pit lane. Kim Coon.
We had Leland Honeyman Jr. and they took right side tires. That was after they first took fuel on that. And there was a little discussion on whether or not to come in. And the team told him, come on in. He said, what if nobody else comes? And they said, come no matter what. This is our plan. So they stepped to their house. And you definitely need to be free up with the tires and a chassis adjustment for Dale Colville.
Sunoco fuel strengthened to the end. By the way, these cars race and use Sunoco 260 GTX unleaded fuel as their official fuel of the series, and General Tire is their official tire of the ARCA Menards series.
Jake Finch a young driver, age 18, from Lynn Haven, Florida. Dave Mooney, Jake Finch, raised in a family that did nothing but racing from one side of the country to the other.
He's fielded cars from the short track ranks all the way to the NASCAR Cup Series over the years. Brad Keselowski got his first Cup win for Mr. Finch, and it's a racing family from start to finish, no question about it.
And James Finch, who owned Phoenix Racing, that was ultimately sold, if you remember, and you follow the sport, Turner Scott Motorsports. But obviously, James Finch involved for years and years and years, got out of it from that standpoint as his son was getting older and progressing through the ranks. And Jake looking very good here, leading the race until he came to pit road.
He's led the most laps, a total of 15 so far tonight. And the Bounty Rookie Challenge Spotlight is brought to you by Procter & Gamble's Bounty brand. Proud sponsor of the ARCA Menards Series Bounty Rookie Challenge Rookie of the Year Award. Bounty available at Menards.
Ryan Huff has been up and running.
off turn number 4. They'll get the green flag this time by here in the Hard Rock Bet 200. It'll be 52 laps to go when they get the green. The front row looks a little bit different. Ryan Huff in the 36 will restart the white machine. Sean Cole
between themselves and the front bumper, the cars behind.
Yeah, a ton of daylight, a full car length between them and that second row of Annunziata and Timberlake. They begin to tighten it up a little bit in turn number 2. Here they come side by side for the lead.
The accordion begins to close back up as the leaders race to the back straightaway, watching Sean Corr leading the outside line. Downstairs, that turn stacks up as well, right behind Huff. Annunziata right now, second in line on the inside of the racetrack.
They are packed in here 2 by 2 until you get back to about the 6th row, when who else but Greg Van Alst is on the outside of 3 wide, trying to find an opening side by side.
Well, he's got Andres Perez lined up right behind him.
Returns to the racetrack with a dramatically rebuilt WeatherTech machine. Leaders begin to make their way through turns 1 and 2, side by side for the lead. Sean Corr trying to get it done up high.
Nobody giving an inch there on that front row as they race their way to the back straightaway. They still continue side double wide formation. 3 wide line breaking out, going 4 wide for a moment around lap traffic on the apron.
That's the Jake Finch car that's going 3 wide now with help from Gus Dean, and they're making good progress up to the 4th spot, looking for 3rd on 4.
Sean Corr at the front of the field. He'll look to the right, though. He's got a hard chance. Because Jake Finch is in traffic up top side.
Charging in that outside lane with help from Gus Dean. A good man to have on your back bumper so far tonight, and he pushes now to up the leader up to that number 1 position. He will follow in the tire tracks of Jake Finch.
Watching that 3rd wide, or that 3 wide line, that lane on the outside lane. Back to the front of the field as everybody now, including Greg Van Alst, is in hot pursuit.
Sean Corr runs in the 4th spot. Lamar Scott is 5th, and then they're side by side behind them. Ryan Huff is leading the inside lane.
Well, it just goes to show you how good a car is. Because Gus Dean shot Greg Van Alst before, this time he Finch all the way to the lead.
Finch goes to the number 1 spot. Gus Dean is 2nd, and speaking of Greg Van Alst, 6 now. We're all on the bottom of the racetrack.
Sean Corr has been ushered back to position number 4 as they race their way up the Daytona Super Stretch. Watching the leaders now, Jake Finch continues to huddle up down to the bottom of the racetrack. Justin Bonsignore trailing smoking 3.
No cars out of line back at the front of the field. Everybody's still single file until you get to 4th. A couple cars pull out of line. Lamar Scott outside of Sean.
Justin Bonsignore, the car that's putting out some smoke. Smoke continues with back.
Because of the speed, at least for now, but there will come a point where he's going to have to bail out on that or up the race car. Here comes the pack on turn 2.
Springs wide up onto the Daytona Super Stretch. Sean Corr will now lead the outside line right in front of the smoking Bonsignore car. Right now, they race their way off the end of the back straightaway. Jake Finch.
Outside line starting to roll. That's the second group, not all the way up against the outside wall. Sean Corr leading that charge side by side.
This will be the 5th green flag lap of this run. Andres Perez, top 5 there in 1.
Sean Corr just continues to lead away. He's side by side now with Greg Van Alst for the number 3 spot.
Yeah, Sean Corr backing up up there was in a side-by-side battle for third, lost a little bit of momentum coming up to hang on to third. Van Alst will change lanes and jump up in front of him in three.
They're all still chasing Jake Finch and Gus Dean. Greg Van Alst moves off the bottom, picks up Sean Corr in the outside lane.
Greg Van Alst has been able to maneuver inside lane outside.
Laps, but now within the last couple of laps, they are back to wheel formation, leaning on each other, bouncing off each other. Van Alst powers his way back to the point.
And he's in control by himself. Jake Finch leads the inside lane. Sean Corr, who leads the outside lane as they work off to the
Mark Scott right there, right behind Sean Corr. That's the outside lane.
from Gus Dean. He pulls to the right side.
And there's a lot of numbers stacked up in the draft top side. Now prepare.
The second groove, and he'll head on to position number 5.
Greg Van Alst out in front by himself. Free wide territory. Now Jake Finch will inch forward, wheel to wheel for the lead as they race their way back to the corner.
And Sean Corr that's pushing Finch in the outside lane. Lamar Scott behind him on the inside lane. Ryan Huff getting jacked up in the back bumper.
Side by side, they come racing back up turn number 4.
Slap as they race their way to the Daytona Super Stretch. Greg Van Alst continues to lead the lane down low. Top side is Ryan Huff begins to get a bit restless now in that second position downstairs.
Neither of these lanes really seems to have an advantage. Huff second in line on the bottom behind him. Van Alst backs off and now closes in on him.
And they are bearing down on some lap traffic. It'll be the Shane Van Gisbergen car now that will swing to the extreme. Leaders passage down low.
It's back to about 14 or 15 cars all working through the banking at 3 as Van Gisbergen goes to the high side. They're 2 by 2 and Van Gisbergen will be 3 wide to the outside.
Here they come again and they will go 3 wide to the inside.
Justin Monsignor has been showing smoke. They think they may have a tire deal, but then again, he's got to realize some things. said, guys, I can't tell you the water temperature gauge is broken, but he has not lost any performance in his back deck of that race car. So they're going to get to this caution break here before they bring him down and try to figure out what's going on.
That's got to keep the cars behind him a little bit nervous. Dale Quarterly is in just a moment. It's Jake Finch up front. Sean Corr rides second.
Across the nose of Finch. Finch was still there. They nearly loaded it up in the front of the pack.
On the record on the back straightaway mid-pack. Couple of cars, 5, 6, 7 cars, spinning to the inside of the racetrack. One of them is Willie Mullins. Leland Honeyman Jr. 4 cars coming in. Dale Quarterly is involved. A couple of others involved as off turn 2, mid-pack, a disagreement ended up with spinning race cars off turn 2 and onto the backstretch.
Well, we were already on the racing back off turn number 4. Really more of the same. The caution flag is out. The first thing you got to do is lift off the throttle. If you don't, you end up like what you just called just moments ago.
Disagreement there. Not everybody was on the same page. Spinning to the inside of the racetrack. They've all refired their machines and driven away, but those cars that spun do have minimal damage and a lot of grass as they slid through.
Competition caution is out, and then once the caution flag came out, this happened on the back straightaway. You see the 17 car of Marco Andretti get turned sideways. He bounces into Dale Quarterly, that then turns Willie Mullins around, and then a couple of other cars pile in. Leland Honeyman and Armani Williams, some of the cars that were swept up in this after the caution flag had come out for the scheduled competition break at or near lap 40.
So we're past that point now. You see the 3 spinning cars on the inside of the back straightaway on the NASCAR TV screen. A few more involved as well. Another look at it again. Watch the 17 car up in the outside lane. Marco Andretti was 3rd car in line when it started checking up in front of him. Then his car got sideways across the track into the 4 of Dale Quarterly. There's the 17 spinning.
When they throwed the caution, they throwed it
Caden Honeycutt, Leland Honeycutt involved in this thing as well as he went spinning down the back straight.